Alright, so hello everybody, how are you all doing? So in today's video we're going to talk about references and pointers in C++. So one thing what you need to know is references and pointers are used quite a lot. Well, quite a lot. It also depends on the use case, so you know. But it is good to know about references and pointers because some applications may require them, some may not. So, so what are references? A reference is pretty much a variable that references an existing variable, and it's created using the AND operator. So what does it mean? Let me give you a real quick example. So I have my notes here with a few examples prepared to make it easier for us. So let's create a string, and that string is going to be called food. It's really convenient because I really feel hungry right now. And whoops, I didn't realize my keyboard has switched. So that means that this is wrong as well. There we go. And let's say cherry, because why not? So it's going to be called, so it's going to have the value cherry in it. And what do we want now? So now we're going to create a string that will refer to our food string right here. So to create such a string, we have to type in string, obviously, and then we use the AND operator as I mentioned before, and then type in the name, which would be, let's use meal in our case. And let's call it food because it will reference food. So what we've done here is we've just created a reference variable called meal that references food. So if we decide to print it out now, which we will do like that, and whoops, and we just do food, and then we end the line, and then I just will copy this instead of typing it out again because I don't want to waste any time with this. And now we're going to type in meal, so bear in mind that these are two different variables. And I just realized I don't have my command prompt open, so command prompt as administrator. There we go. Let's switch to our directory where our code is. And I think it was, I used GCC on this, so G++. Let's use GCC. No, G++ I used, I believe. And it's called references and pointers -cpp -o references -exe. Oops, wrong name. exe. There we go. Let me just remove that one file I just created. Oh no, it's just the exe one. Okay, so we don't have to remove it. So now if we run our application, you'll notice that both of them say cherry, even though we've defined it only once. And that's where using something called pointers is really cool, because you can pretty much have multiple variables that have the same value essentially, or reference the same value. What we can do, and that's something really neat, is we can print out its value in our memory address. A memory address is essentially a place in memory where our variable is stored. So to print out the memory address, all we have to do, let me just comment these out because we're not gonna need those for now. We're going to use the same bit of code, I'm just gonna add things along as I go, so just bear with me. And what we're going to do is we're going to print out its memory address. To print out the memory address, we type in cout. Whoops, wrong characters. Forgot that we are using the English keyboard. And then we use the AND or the ampersand, if you will. and we're going to type in food, and then we're going to do the end line thing. There we go. So now what it will do is it will, if we compile this and run it, you'll notice it printed out our memory address. This is our address in memory, which is fine. This is what we expected. We wanted the memory address. One thing you have to remember, they will share memory addresses, so our pointers will share memory addresses, which is what I'm going to cover now. So pointers, so this is all you need to know about references, essentially. References just reference the same item but with a different variable. That's all there's to references. So now that we know all of this, it's important to differentiate pointers and references. So pointers, however, are variables that store the memory address as its value. So instead of having the same item stored as references have, pointers store the same memory address. So it's created using the star operator. To show you this, I'm going to create a completely new application for it, so it doesn't collide with anything. Actually, I don't even have to change it as much. Let me just remove these lines here and keep the first one. Alright, so how do you create a pointer? To create a pointer, it's really easy. So we have, first off, we have our string variable called cherry, and string variable called food with the value of cherry. Okay, then we define our pointer. To define a pointer, you have to put a star right next to the data type, and what was it in my notes real quick? Oh yeah, and then we give it a name. Let's give it a name of PTR to distinguish it a bit, and let's create our, and let's get the address of our variable. So give it our memory address. If you remember, we used this to print out the memory address. So what I did here is I gave our pointer PTR the same memory address as our food variable has. And next we're going to output some information so that you guys can understand. So let's first print out what our food variable has stored in itself. To do that, we do cout, use the two back-facing arrows again, do this, and let's add the end line thing. There we go, and here we're going to change this to, what was it, food. And then let me just copy this and do some small changes to it. So let me just copy this, and our small change will be that we want to print out the memory address. So we use the ampersand before our food variable, and then we're going to print out our pointer. Just to show you that it does the thing as I said it will. So PTR as our pointer, obviously. So now what have we done here? So now we've actually, so this line will essentially output the value of our food variable, and our food variable has the value cherry in it, or the text cherry in it rather. And then we are printing out the memory address of our food variable, which is right here, this line. So this prints out the memory address of our food variable. And what have we done here is we have actually decided to print out the pointer. The pointer will print out the memory address. One thing you will notice if I decide to compile this code and run it, you'll notice that they share the same memory address despite being a different variable. That's because pointers have a really simple rule, or a really simple thing that they have to work with. They just have to point at the same place in our memory because, you know, we want to reuse possibly the same variable, so we can use pointers for that. instead of having to define something else as the same amount. And there are some cases that you would like to use the same place in memory. I don't have a really good example for this, but this hopefully helped you understand what references and pointers are, because it's not that difficult to understand. You just have to wrap your mind around it a bit differently. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, the code will be in the GitHub repository down in the description, so you can have a look at it. I'll also include as a part of this the previous code we had, so you don't have to worry that I won't include anything else. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.